there with dandas, which I hadn't seen before. There was like a room full of sticks. And then there was like two people in white dhotis, which were Karandar and Jayatirtha. And then I was the only non-initiated devotee there with my long curling hair. And I was having difficulty sitting in a lotus position because I was too muscular built up. And then Prabhupada was just finished singing a song, and he was looking around the room and looked from side to side, and then he looked straight at me. And immediately he said, "Why are you a creepina?" And just boom, it was like, of course I was thinking, I hadn't said anything now. What is a creepina? And in my mind, and Prabhupada says, "Creepina is opposite of Brahmana." And he started explaining how a Brahmana is the highest class in society. They're meant to know the absolute truth and be the mouth for God. And at that point, because he was so heavy, I remember Karandar and Jayatirtha and the sannyasis in the front sort of made a little aisle, so there was a direct contact for Prabhupada and me. And so I was looking at him thinking, what is I'm just being, screamed at of being a miserly. It means miserly. And then Prabhupada explained, he said, if you have abilities, and you're not using them for Krishna, then you're a miser. So we had never met before. And I came in challenging, and so Prabhupada first took the first whap and stuck it to me. Then progressively, then he started explaining the process of bhakti, the process that the absolute truth, what the absolute truth is the lotus feet of Krishna, and then he explained the process of bhakti, of rendering service. And so progressively my 4 prerequisites for being a guru was becoming erased one after another. Simultaneously I was being, kicked in the face by Prabhupada's, lotus mercy, by my nonsense challenging spirit. And finally it was at the last point, and Prabhupada was, having his way with me. And I kept ruggedly insisting in my mind, well, he didn't say any, he didn't predict the future. So, and just as I was thinking like that, obviously Prabhupada, you could tell he was seeing right through you. And you felt naked by his vision. And Prabhupada called for Pradyumna, and which was his traveling translator, secretaries for his translations. So he asked for Pradyumna to go bring him the big volume that he translates from. This was a 10 commentary volume, the Srimad Bhagavatam, which has all the major commentaries of the Vaishnavacharyas. So at that time, in the early 70s, he had not read from the 12th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam before. So Prabhupada then asked him to get the book. When Pradyumna gave it to him, he turned to the 12th canto and he started predicting the future for the age of Kali. And he started saying, and he looked at me and he said, people will think they're beautiful by having long hairs. And I had this long hair. And he started explaining many of the different predictions in the age of Kali, and I felt so defeated, and I hadn't even opened my mouth. I hadn't even, thank God, by Krishna's grace, I hadn't made any offenses other than offensively coming into him. And that was the first time Prabhupada smashed me. And at that, immediately after the darshan over, I just bulleted out of the room. I mean, didn't see anybody, but ran down the stairs, jumped in the car, and started driving back home to Long Beach. And I was thinking, well, I've been called a miser, and I'm thinking all these different things. And then I'm going over all the stuff that Prabhupada said. And finally I reached home. I said, well, why don't you just face it? I'd just been defeated. And I wasn't used to being defeated, but then I remembered that this is what I was looking for, and here's an honest and regal and powerful guru, and I recognized I had been defeated. So it took a little bit of courage, and so I drove back the next morning and I wrote a check out for $1,000, and I saw Karandar down in the gift shop, so I gave it to him and I made it out to A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, and he looked at it. At that time $1,000 was a really big donation, and he said, "Oh, come, give it to Srila Prabhupada." And I said, "No, that's okay." I survived the first meeting, so he put it, was wait here. So he brought it up to Srila Prabhupada, and as he gave it to Srila Prabhupada, he had me waiting there, and he came back down, and he told Karandar to tell me that I have understood. So that was my first meeting with Srila Prabhupada. I remembered being so shaking, and Prabhupada called us up and gave us a name, and when he called us up, there was many devotees, and you're just trying to remember, not to screw up, how to say the right thing, and remember, and do it right, and so Prabhupada said, your name is Mahabhuti, and then he gave some. Mahabhuti means great intelligence. And they started giving some thing on it, but I was so awestruck, just like surrendering to Prabhupada, that I didn't even know what he said. I just became dumbfounded. Prabhupada was like that. Normally I have like what's somewhat of a Kshatriya mentality, and but in presence of Prabhupada, I was someone who could control me. On one of the morning walks that we were on, he gave Ganesham, now Bhakti Tirtha Swami, some personal instructions. And I thought that was so wonderful. And at the same time, I was a little transcendently jealous, because I wish I had some. So we went on the walk the next morning, and actually Prabhupada, I asked a question. I said, Prabhupada, we're visiting all these professors and these big universities, and we're just, we were just a graduate from San Diego State, and we're trying to represent you well. I said, I didn't even quite finish the sentence, and he looked at me and he said, and I was feeling like, how can we, help be better qualified and help this? And Prabhupada looked at me, he says, Krishna is already helping. So like, as if we thought we were doing the work. So Prabhupada is really good at bringing us back to reality. But then he said, anyway, he said, you just pray to Krishna. Te sam satyuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mama payanti te. And then he goes, you know what that means? And I was kind of, and then he translated it. And he explained to those who constantly worship me, love, I give them the intelligence how to come back to me. So he said, you will pray like that? And I said, yes, Prabhupada. I said, every day? Yes, Srila Prabhupada. So he said, in that way, Krishna will supply you the intelligence. So that was like one of the most wonderful times for me with Prabhupada, that he gave personal instruction, which we try to follow. That it's so, Prabhupada is such a wonderful personality that, that one could dedicate his life fully to just simply trying to enact his desires. Yeah, there was one professor in Philadelphia that was cultivating and brought him to, and we thought, oh, he's teaching a temple and he has all these students. He's an Indian, and so we're expecting Prabhupada, because we've seen Prabhupada. We've talked to a few professors, and he was cordial and nice. In LA, we used to sit in, and he'd talk to some of the professors in his garden, and so in this way, this was our business, meeting professors and every day, and preaching and trying to connect things to help elicit reviews and get our books in libraries and colleges and be as textbooks all over the world. So this happened at this one place. They invited this Indian professor in, and we thought, he was the head professor on campus, and probably was going to be very nice. And so we got him in there, and Prabhupada just blasted him, just tore into him, blasted him, and called him cheater, and practically like annihilated on the in his darshan room, and then the person left, and we were like all shocked, because he was the big person on campus, but Prabhupada didn't care. If he was, as far as he's concerned, he was cheating the people. He was cheating his students and mocking like that. So we learned that actually those who were a little bit successful in the library party, we appreciated the service that we were doing, but we realized we were in one sense in the enemy's camp. They were Mayaprityagyana, many of them, and their business was to downgrade and sort of make mythologicalize the teachings of Lord Krishna. And so our business was to engage them and to have them write reviews and use them for the sake of this of Krishna's goals, to solicit to be able to sponsor our books and get them into the universities and colleges, and let the students get a chance to examine them. So it was a good training that Prabhupada, we didn't have that appreciation for the professors in the sense of like being attracted to what they were teaching is truthful. So in that sense, we were always in disguise as enemy agents in another camp. We had Ganesham or Bhakti Swami and we had been in the Sankirtan newsletter a lot for all these book distribution that we had in all the colleges and universities. And I guess after like a few months of reading that, I had came to the platform of impurity, like thinking, yes, we're the doer. And Prabhupada was coming to Chicago, and there were the Radha Damodar party, and he was installing so many deities. So there was about 300 devotees there, and many people, oh, Haribo Mahabhuti, you've done so well. And then Prabhupada had come, and one day, each successive day that he was there, terrible things happened. Like one morning, there was on the installation Guru Puj, there was a big Guru Puj, about 300 devotees, and myself and Ram Kali and I think Guru Kripa were dancing somewhat wildly, extremely wildly. I mean, if like anyone was in the way, they'd probably be knocked down. So Prabhupada stopped the Guru Puj, and he said, Mahabhuti, what is this dancing? And he goes, that is not Vaishnava jazz. And then he turned to Brahmananda, and he said, show them, was it Kurnatai style, or show them Sankirtan style, whatever. And he had Brahmananda do the Swami step. And then it was like you could hear a pin drop. The artik went back on, and I remember floating back all the way to like the 301st person. And successively, Prabhupada he had a big press conference, and I noticed there wasn't a book table up there for the books, and Prabhupada always wanted to do that. So he put I put books up there, but he just told all the devotees how all of his devotees pay obeisance before they came in. And so when I came in, it was a little late because I just finished setting the thing up, and everybody was all over the place, so I didn't want to make a disturbance, so I just thought I'd slide to the back. And then Prabhupada saw me, and he went just like this, and then turned to Harikesh, and he said words that Harikesh this day wouldn't tell me. But anyways, he severely chastised me because he just told all of his disciples to bow down and pay obeisances, and then I thought it would be kind of awkward for all the camera and stuff like that for him, and I didn't do it. So I was getting smashed one thing after another. We came in the room, and he was having a personal association. It was going off of the library party man, and he was going, this is Gokulananda, and he's talking about Krishna, and this is Ganesham, talking about Krishna, and then Satsuri was, this is Mahabhuti, and he just looked at me and just, next. And so I felt like after 3 days of that, I had committed so many offenses that I was ready to go jump in the Chicago River. And when I finally got to that platform, feeling useless and that we're not the doer of any of our services, then at that point, then Prabhupada again allowed us to have his association. So Prabhupada would teach in many ways. So in the greatest feeling one could have, and many book distributors I'm sure could say that at that time, is you could feel being the instrument of Prabhupada's desire. And once you have that feeling that you actually could do, you were useful in Prabhupada's service, then there's nothing more satisfying or higher. But it was just like Krishna who would manifest with the gopis and then unmanifest if there was any sense of pride or feeling that, we've done something, you become unqualified for the association of such a pure soul. So he's teaching us lessons, not that we are not the doer. This was the mercy of Prabhupada. He used to run Prabhupada's darshans in Vrindavan and Mayapur during the festivals for about 4 or 5 years, up until his leaving in 1977. So one year in Vrindavan, Prabhupada, you'd have to let all the devotees and different people in up to a certain point, and you'd have to stop the different devotees from coming in. And Prabhupada would always give such wonderful darshan. Sometimes you could just see Prabhupada, just his mercy reaching out to so many people. It was just, you could cut the air, was so thick, and you just want to cry. And that's just, so if you go to so many darshans all the time, just seeing that is that you seeing the great wonder that Prabhupada had over people, had over devotees and visitors. So one day we were in Vrindavan, and a gentleman came, an Indian gentleman in the back. I really didn't pay attention because it was all full room. And Prabhupada said, we're getting toward the end of the darshan, and he goes, "Where's the prasadam?" And that was my responsibility to make sure everything was there. And I just realized there was no prasadam. Prabhupada had just told me earlier that or the day before, make sure every single person that comes to his darshan gets some prasadam. And he said, if there's not enough, then some of the devotees you cannot. But if there's enough, everyone should get prasadam. So he just looked at me, where's the prasadam? And I was like, so immediately I ran back into the back, and I went into the deity's pujari room and said, where is the sweets are supposed to be for Prabhupada's distribution? And he says, well, someone was sick and they didn't make them. And I go, oh my God. So I was looking in there, and I said, and I went into the deity's room just before they were making an offering. And I said, what is that? There was this whole tray of Maha sweets that they were going to give to Radha and Krishna. And I thought, very quickly, and I took that tray. And as I took that tray, you need me to stop? As I took that tray, I brought it into, I put it on the transfer plate because I had it on the deity plate. And I brought it into Prabhupada. Now I was under a dilemma. How am I supposed to offer this? You can imagine, it's like in my neophyte mode, I'm trying to think, now I've got this prasadam, am I supposed to bow down and offer the 3 prayers first? I was like in this dilemma. Prabhupada just looked at me, obviously like saw through me, he goes, who is this nut of a disciple? And he said, come here. So he called me here, and he said, open up this plate I had. And he said, oh, I opened up, and he looked at it. Now just wait. And so, and my trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do, Prabhupada saw my anxiety. He came and looked at it, and then I realized just by offering it to the spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada was so potent that that would be accepted for Krishna. After I took it from Krishna's plate. So then I distributed it to everyone. But someone in the back of the room had left without, I guess, first me giving it to it. And Prabhupada said that, he said, there is one man, he has left. You must give him this prasadam. You understand? You must give. And I'd never seen that before. So it was just a couple of seconds, so I took some prasadam when I expected to see the person just outside the door. But he wasn't there, so, oh my God, I thought so I kept going farther and farther toward the gate, still didn't see him, and finally went to the gate, and there he was at the gate. So just in a matter of seconds, he was up at the front, which I thought was very unusual. But then I had caught him, and I gave him this prasadam and said, my spiritual master wanted me to make sure that you had some prasad. Yes. And then he looked at me and his head was covered with a chadar, and he was very, very unusual features, very Indian, but very, very regal. And he said, your spiritual master is very kind. And it kind of caught me, and he went down the road. I guess I turned in, I went down the road, and he wasn't there anymore. So as I was going back to Prabhupada's, I was thinking, who are these personalities that, that come even in to take darshan of Prabhupada? We got to visit one time when his godbrothers came, and he was speaking in Bengali, and he asked us to bring down this book. In this book he had the reviews that we had gotten from the library party, and he was so proud reading the different reviews. He had me read some of the different reviews that to his godbrothers. He was so proud of that, and I read one from Ganesham Bhaktitirtha, and one of mine, and from Oxford, and one from one of the schools we went to, and Prabhupada would say in English a bit, say that how scholars and these books are being accepted all the world, and his godbrothers were very much impressed, and I could see that beam of smile that was in Prabhupada, and that sort of instilled so much faith in me, how much important that Prabhupada really wanted this done, and that was for a whole year. It like kept us going. One time, as Prabhupada's guard there, Prabhupada had me doing something in his room, and Prabhupada, he said, he asked me, where is Bhagavan? I said, I don't know, Srila Prabhupada. And he said, bring me Bhagavan. I said, right now? He said, yes, bring me Bhagavan. And he was so firm, and he looked at me like, in such a look that, it was imperative that, above anything else, I better go get Bhagavan right now. So I ran all along the wall of Mayapur, down the different ages, and Bhagavan wasn't even in the grounds of the temple. And so now, I said, "Has anyone seen Bhagavan?" He said, "I think he went to the Ganga." So I remember I was thinking, well, I should go back and tell Prabhupada that if he wants me to go all the way to the Ganga. I said, and I just thought, it's very imperative Prabhupada, once my instruction was to get Bhagavan and bring him there. So I remember I ran all the way out the gates and all the way through the fields, all the way to the Ganga, and Bhagavan was giving a class at the time at the Ganga, and there was about 50 devotees there sitting and listening. And I remember coming up to him and I said, "Excuse me, I wasn't a bashful or an abash. It was probably one something. I figured, well, I'm not going to be beat around the bush." And I said, "Harbo, please excuse me, but Srila Prabhupada wants to see you right now." I said, "Yeah, I'll go there, and so I'll finish here." I said, "I'm sorry, Prabhu, but Prabhupada wants to see you right now." And he looked at me like, "Yeah." I said, "I'm just coming." And then I got more emphatic. "You don't seem to understand. Prabhupada wants you right now. So get your stuff and let's go." I told him like that, and he had never seen such arrogance in a brahmachari. I think that's commanding him to go do this. But anyway, somehow I think he felt my purpose, and I practically grabbed him to come and get it. And when I was going there, he was a little bit slower coming through the gate, so I ran straight up to Prabhupada's thing, and Prabhupada was still in that pose. He was still looking as if he hadn't even broken his glance from when he told me before. And he looked at me, and then as soon as he came in, he was like waiting for the report. He said, "I have brought him Srila Prabhupada. He was at the Ganga." And he says, "Very good." And I was like, whew, a great weight coming up. So that one has to be. Prabhupada was unabashed in the sense that as a disciple, we have to follow his instructions. That's our very life and soul. We have no idea what Krishna consciousness is out. None of us understood it about Krishna, who he was, or devotional service, or Sankirtan, or prasadam. None of these things. It wasn't except for Prabhupada who gave us that. And his instructions to us, disobeying or not following his instructions, meant we were nowhere. So even such a simple instruction, that we have no meaning why or what did he want it for, but it was so emphatically said it that we better do it, and we better do it right and now. And there wasn't anything, I think, my mind was determined there wasn't anything Bhagavan to do. Literally, if I have to carry him there, then he was going to have to come see Prabhupada. There was another pastime where Prabhupada was sitting on the Vyasa-san in Atlanta, and we were very close to him right there. And he was given a mridanga to play. Prabhupada was playing mridanga. So we asked the devotees, "You know that song, Parama Karuna?" And the devotees can learn it. Yes, Prabhupada. And they sing along. So Prabhupada started. He said this beat that no one knew, and I think only now Kardama Muni is the only one who can sing it like that. Prabhupada did. And he would sing Parama Karuna, and then he said, "And then you follow," and no one could follow. No one knew the words, no one knew everything, and then Prabhupada could sing like no one knew it. There's 100 devotees there, but no one knew it, So Prabhupada would sing through it, and then says, "Now you're ready to follow?" I said, "Yes." Everyone's ready to follow. I said, so people were kind of ready to try to follow with it. And so Prabhupada were thinking he's ready to play, so Prabhupada sits up there and tells them to play the tape. And so Prabhupada's sitting on the Vyasa-san, and this tape's playing Parama Karuna. And that was like kind of a first for us, because Prabhupada's there and he's playing his tape now. And I'm supposed to follow after the tape. And then at that point he said, "So is there any difference between my tape and he's saying?" So he let us know that, he's in his tape as much as he's, speaking to us personally. So we can take great solace that his tapes have been recorded for prosperity and austerity, saying that if we just listen to his tapes now, even 20 years later, that they're non-different than Prabhupada speaking at the time. So when he spoke Bhagavatam class or when he gave his darshans, he was speaking to millions of people through all different generations who get a chance to hear these things. So no other acharya in our system had such a great opportunity to speak to unlimited numbers of people for an unlimited period of time. Atlanta, one time when Prabhupada came to Atlanta, was in 1975. I think he arrived in February, just before March, just at the end of February. Prabhupada arrived out from, he was just on his tour from, went to Mexico City, to Caracas, and as he said, to Miami, and then he went to Atlanta. And Atlanta, everyone converged at that time. The library party, the Radha Damodar, and everyone was coming from all over America to see Prabhupada in Atlanta. They were just installing Gauratai. And Prabhupada came and he said, I visited all those places, and now I visited Atlanta, and I could see this temple is the best. And yeah, Jai Prabhupada. And of course he said that everywhere he went. So Prabhupada would encourage everyone, but then he started speaking. He was standing in front of the Gauratai deities, which are very beautiful there. And he'd be looking at the deities, and he'd look at the deities like not as we would look at the deities, because he would see Gauratai, and we would, we obviously weren't pure enough to see. So he'd be looking at the deities and said, these two lords, Parama Karuna, are very, very merciful. Yeah, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, Gauratai, and he's even more merciful than Lord Krishna. And Krishna is very merciful, but Lord Chaitanya, he is so merciful. And then Prabhupada went into ecstasy, and he choked up, and so please serve him very much, very nicely, thank you. And from that minute, anyone who was in the presence, it wasn't as if Prabhupada was seeing Gauratai. It wasn't like, these are deities there, and we're worshiping, we're trying, and we understand they're non-different. Prabhupada was seeing Gauratai, and he was so appreciative of the mercy of Lord Chaitanya that he went in ecstasy, and all of the disciples there at that time was, just stunned by the emotion Prabhupada felt for the Supreme Lord. I think the most wonderful thing for us with Prasadam point was the several times that Prabhupada would individually take some Prasadam and give it to us, and we took that as blessings, because you'd go a whole year or so just, and maybe Prabhupada would come visit America, and you get a chance to visit one place where Prabhupada would be at, and then again in India. But so you'd have to, whatever association that you'd have with Prabhupada, you'd have to cherish in your heart and remember it. And that was, that personal association was wonderful. But you'd also feel Prabhupada so strongly in your service that we would be knocking on doors and we wouldn't know what to say, and we'd just be praying to Krishna and Prabhupada, and then you'd feel Prabhupada's, strength through these. Somehow or other, these things were happening in most amazing situations, and that Prabhupada was there. So you would feel that spiritual life is real. The association and surrender to the spiritual master is real. It's necessary. So those are very instructive feelings on Sankirtan. So I remember Prabhupada is not so much in the past. A lot of times we look at things as reminiscences of Prabhupada, but Prabhupada now in the present. He would say many times, I remember in Atlanta when he was offering Guru Pooch to his spiritual master, he would say when he first came to America that, he was trying to do this impossible, but he did not feel alone because his spiritual master was always there. So Prabhupada, although every devotee of every disciple Prabhupada devastated that Prabhupada left us, but Prabhupada left us physically, but his instructions are ever much present, and he's there even with us today if we take the time to want to follow those instructions. So Prabhupada in the present is also, he's not finished with his pastimes. And so we just hope that somehow whether we can not commit so many offenses to all my God brothers, that we can be around somehow to help participate in those. because Prabhupada wanted this planet to be changed, and he wanted this Varnashram to be implemented. He had so many things that they're waiting to be done. They're already successful. It's just a question of being qualified enough to participate in them. And that's the thing. The devotee has to become qualified to take the mercy of a spiritual master by following his instructions and becoming very serious about implementing and serving the lotus feet of the spiritual master. Another time in Mayapur, another important instruction, it was just myself and Prabhupada in his room, and he had been just finishing, he was writing some things and on his desk, and I just given him some coconut water, his dab, and I was in there straightening some things up and sat down, just by the door and chatted a little bit while Prabhupada was working in there. So then Prabhupada's sister, Pisama, came, and I had her wait at the door first, and I said, Prabhupada, your sister's here, would you like to speak to us? Yes. Bring her in. So I opened the door to let Pisama in, and she came and sat down, and they started speaking in Bengali. And so I got up to walk out the door, and I had a few things I thought I'd do before the rest of the people came for that evening. Just within a few minutes there, and Prabhupada looked at me and said, where are you going? I was just going outside. I said, no, come sit. So he had me sit down, and the conversation went on with his sister for about another 20 minutes, half hour. And I was thinking, I'm going to be chastised again. I've done so messed up again. And so I was just chanting, and I didn't know what was said. It was all Bengali. And then his sister finished, and she went out of the room, and Prabhupada turned to me. And there was no one else there. Prabhupada turned to me, and he said, a sannyasi is never alone in a room even with his mother or sister. And then he quoted that verse. Now, Prabhupada wasn't having to show anybody specifically like this, but yet that example was very instructive, that here's Prabhupada and here's his sister, who's very old also, and it's his sister, but yet showing so much by the example. So, for all of our sannyasis out there, it's a wonderful verse. And showed Prabhupada was non-different. I mean, it wasn't that Prabhupada would say something and doing something else. In that way, he affected all of our hearts who were trying on the front of preaching, that our whole moments of appreciation, our movement was just the little time we got to spend with Prabhupada, and that he was pleased with what we're doing. But seeing his example, there was no dichotomy, there was no hypocrisy. Prabhupada was Prabhupada, and as he spoke and as he put in the books, so he lived his life. And that type of leader you can follow anywhere.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So we'll watch another realization, remembrance. Just wait for us a couple of minutes. Krishna Das will do the needful soon. Hare Krishna.
I was asked to put the garland on Prabhupada, and I always remember that when Prabhupada came through the doors of the lounge, it was that his smile was like, as I say, oceanic. It was just an oceanic smile. And I could just, straight away, I actually froze, but I remember actually thinking that this person's not in this dimension. Even as I was only young then, I was only just turned 18, but I could tell this person's not in this world, he's not on this planet. And I froze, I couldn't put the garland on Prabhupada. So I was just standing there looking at him, and Prabhupada, of course, was just beaming, and I wasn't the only garland, but devotees were coming up to him, but I just froze. I didn't pay my obeisance to anything, I just froze. And Prabhupada walked straight past me, and I was standing there with this big garland. And I'm just looking at this person. Then I ran up to Prabhupada and slipped the garland on him. But it was kind of funny because I was obviously the reception committee with the garland, but I actually just froze. I didn't know what to do, And I remember that, particularly Prabhupada's smile just knocked me out. And I remember one thing was that all the devotees were crying practically. That's the fascinating thing about it. I looked around, and there was a lot of devotees there, and a lot of people were crying. And I think that's just made me even more kind of amazed at the potency of this person. You know, that someone could walk through a door and cause everyone to cry. You know, it was just fascinating. And another time we were doing initiations, and at the initiations, Prabhupada was very grave. You know, when he was chanting on the beads, he was chanting on all these beads, and he was very, very grave. And I remember I was sitting just below the Vyasa. I was thinking, Prabhupada's so grave, you know. And yet, then when one boy came up, Prabhupada was holding up the beads like that. And so Prabhupada said to him, he said, so what are the 4 regulated principles? So the boy said, no intoxication, no gambling, no meeting, no illicit sex. And then Prabhupada said, so, which one you like the best? And the boy went bright red, you know. He went completely red. And I just thought that was really funny, because Prabhupada had been so grave. It was so serious an occasion, and yet he kind of completely talked like that. In St. James's Park, Prabhupada would constantly be pointing out things, different things. I mean, there was one time we were in a park, and there was that now there was that story which I remember, but there was some bird droppings, you know, and Prabhupada was asking, he was saying, what is this? And everyone was kind of looking at the bird droppings and thinking, well, you know, like, they were kind of thinking, well, maybe it probably means some tea leaf formations, you know, like we could esoterically look at it. And Prabhupada said, what does this tell you? And everyone was kind of bewildered. And then Prabhupada said, this tells you that the same bird is sleeping on the same branch every night. So Prabhupada said, even the bird becomes attached to his apartment. So he said, Prabhupada said, so be careful. One time we were going past Buckingham Palace. So we were very proud at that time that one boy had joined who was part of the Queen's Guards. You know, the guys who wear the big furry hats. So as we were passing the palace, we were in a taxi with Prabhupada. So we looked over and we said, Prabhupada, one of the Queen's personal guards has joined. And then Prabhupada said, oh, so what about the Queen? I remember different things on morning walks. One thing was that Prabhupada was always commenting about the state of society. And one of the things he'd noticed was these people would sleep in the parks. They'd sleep under, you know, in the sleeping bags or just on the newspaper or whatever. So Prabhupada was just explaining how karma is such that even though you have so much advancement, he said, such an advanced society, he said, but still they can't avoid karma. So Prabhupada said, you can see these people, they're still suffering. Even though they're living in a very civilized country, still they are sleeping in a vulnerable condition. And another thing that Srila Prabhupada was pointing out one morning, we were asking him about advancement. So Prabhupada very, very determinedly stopped, and then he took one step forward, and then Prabhupada pointed to his leg, and he said, when one leg is firmly fixed, then Prabhupada said, then one moves the next leg. So Prabhupada said, in that way one can make advancement. But Prabhupada said, not to run, simply falling, you know, falling over. So one time Prabhupada was very ill, and that was a time when he actually collapsed in his room. Shyam Sundar, it was late at night, and Shyam Sundar rushed in and just called Prabhupada. But he said that Prabhupada didn't fall as such, but he just sort of like, he was very weak. He called out to Shyam Sundar. And Shyam Sundar said when he went in there, and Prabhupada kind of fell into his arms. And he said Prabhupada was incredibly light. So what we did then, we all actually stayed in bed that morning. No one got up because we didn't want to disturb Prabhupada at all. And when we got up, everyone had to be really quiet. And we had 24-hour kirtan, very nice kirtan in the temple. Anyway, about 3 days later, we were just walking on a morning walk with Prabhupada. Suddenly Prabhupada got really well again. And we're on this morning walk. And one of the devotees said to Prabhupada, he said that, Srila Prabhupada, how is it that a pure devotee, someone who's a pure devotee, how does he get sick? And Prabhupada stopped. And I always remember, because it was so loving, Prabhupada's eyes got really big. You know, like Prabhupada used to, his eyes would get very big. And he stopped, and he became very emotional. And Prabhupada said, it is just like the lover. Prabhupada said, sometimes the lover, what is this? And Prabhupada went like that, what is it? Sometimes they're biting, like this. And we said, oh, love bite, Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, yes. So Prabhupada said, similarly, Krishna, he has his love bites. So sometimes he bites the devotee. And then he smiled. But it was very, you could tell it was very, that it was very deep. I remember one time that we were having prasadam. Prabhupada was taking prasadam in his room, and Jamuna was cooking. It was Malati and Jamuna. I know that Malati was running up and down because Prabhupada liked his puris when they popped, so they had to be hot. So I remember there was this whole kind of shuffling up and down the stairs with these hot puris. So I was kind of fascinated, so I popped my head around the corner, and it was Malati. Malati was saying to Prabhupada, she was saying to Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, how many puris can you eat, you know? And because she brought, I don't know how many puris she brought to Prabhupada, she brought him a lot of puris. And Prabhupada was as she would bring the puris, Prabhupada was respecting the prasadam. And so anyway, when she came to like this final puri, she was thinking, how many more times can I go up and down? So she said to Prabhupada, how many puris can you eat? And Prabhupada just looked up and said, more than you can make. Like that. I remember his eyes got really big, and he just laughed. And I remember looking at it, it was like a cowherd boy. Somehow Prabhupada at that time, he was just so, like he was very ecstatic. He was kind of hitting himself on his knee, and he said, more than you can make. Prabhupada also was greeting the deities when he first arrived. So he said, be very careful. He said, do not become proud. He said, you're dealing with Radha and Krishna. Don't be proud. Then everything will be spoiled. And then another time one guest asked Prabhupada, he says, why does Krishna have peacock feather? And I remember I was thinking, well, Prabhupada's going to give some far-out esoteric reason, that peacocks are this, and therefore he is. And Prabhupada just turned around and said, because he likes to. It's the way Prabhupada said it. It was just so it was so simple. And actually, Prabhupada said on another occasion also, he said that he was sitting on the Vyasasana and he said, this Krishna consciousness, it is so simple, you will miss it. He said, it is so simple, you will miss it. And I always remember that because it was just so simple, what he was saying. And yet it was so deep. Because Prabhupada said, this Krishna consciousness is so simple, you will miss it. So there were, another time also, went to see the Indian ambassador with Prabhupada. That was a very nice occasion. And we didn't have a car at the time. Actually, the temple was very poor. So we went to see the Indian ambassador, and I had to announce amongst the guests. I said, "Has anyone got a car we could use?" There was a few guests there. So one hippie said, "I've got one, and your Swami can use it." And we looked outside, and it was a beetle, but it was all flowers on it. It was like a really, it was a ridiculous-looking car, And I thought, boy, Prabhupada, how can we put Prabhupada in this? But we had to go for the meeting. So we got in the car with Srila Prabhupada, Shyam Sundar, myself, and there was Prabhupada, and this hippie driving. So we went off down to the Indian embassy. And one of the things I remember about the meeting was when we got to see the Indian ambassador, Prabhupada just sat there and he was so relaxed. He was so transcendental. And at the same time, he was just talking about Srila Rupa Goswami. So I knew Prabhupada had come for some intention. So I was thinking, I didn't exactly know why he'd come. Later on I found out he'd come to get 5-year visas, for his missionary visas for his devotees in India and America, the American devotees particularly. And so he was talking about Srila Rupa Goswami and the Goswamis, and then he showed him nectar devotion, he gave him nectar devotion, and for about half an hour Prabhupada just talked about the Goswamis. And then at the end of it, so the gentleman was so kind of purified, the Indian ambassador, so then he started talking to him in a very personal way. He called him by his first name. He said, so, Abai Pant was his name, not Abai, Abu Pant or something. And he said, so Abu, last time I was here, you said, Swamiji, whatever you want, I will do, if I can help you. He said, so now I have one request. And by that time, they were in such nice relationship that he couldn't refuse. Prabhupada completely melted him. And he wanted him to get in touch with Indira Gandhi. And he wanted him to arrange for the 5-year visas. So, as I remember, he went off at that time, and the Indian ambassadors he was going to contact through Delhi, the Indira Gandhi. And, but it was just such an amazing way that Prabhupada had actually kind of, softened him by talking about the Goswamis and the philosophy. So, it fascinated me how he dealt with that particular person, because there was no kind of business-like stuff. It was just that Prabhupada was, you could see, he was an ambassador from the Goswamis, and he was meeting the Indian ambassador, and he did it on his grounds. He didn't do it on their grounds. He didn't behave like a diplomat or in any way try to conform to their idea of negotiations. And that really kind of struck me. Then what happened was that we did a program. We had a big program in Glasgow. And this was far out, because actually Prabhupada had, that morning we went to the program, he hadn't eaten. He had a bit of breakfast. But what I didn't realize was I had to go early and arrange the setup. And Prabhupada came over by train. And in the train he met this very nice Indian man. He really liked the journey. He was telling us afterwards. And anyway, what happened was, though, I don't think they brought him any prasadam. So he must have left about noontime, or maybe 1 o'clock. So between that, right up until the evening time, he hadn't practically eaten, but he never complained once. So anyway, we got to the hall and we had this program, and it was a far-out program because the hall was packed. I don't know how, in those days it was a big hall. I think there was at least 500 people in there. There was 400 or 500 people, and they were like, they loved Prabhupada. Somehow the Scottish took a real liking to Prabhupada. So we had this big Vyasa sign on the stage, and we had a massive kirtan, 100 was leading and everything. It was a real ecstatic kirtan. And these street urchins, there was these kids that had come in off the street because we let anyone in, and they were dancing like anything, and Prabhupada was really encouraging them. There was a whole rapport going on between them and Prabhupada. And I thought I was far out, because most of the time we were trying to get them out. And Prabhupada you could see Prabhupada didn't like that. The devotees were trying to pull them away, so I stopped it. But anyway, so Prabhupada did this amazing lecture. It's actually, I've heard it many times since. And he lectured from the Bhagavad Gita. And what happened was, at the end of the lecture, so Prabhupada said, so, there are any questions? And then one guy stood up and he started to say, basically what he was trying to say was that I am God. But first of all, he started waffling some stuff, and then he came to the point. He said, actually, he said, we're all God. And Prabhupada wasn't saying a word. Prabhupada was just letting him speak. Now, he was speaking, and the object was, he was in person, but he was saying we're all God, it's all one. And then suddenly he ran out of words. And Prabhupada was just sitting there. Prabhupada looked very, very grave, but like a lion. He was just sitting there like a lion. And suddenly there was this complete silence, because the guy ran out of words. And so there was just this guy looking at Prabhupada. He was right at the front of the audience, looking straight up at Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was looking straight at him. And then Prabhupada said, you are not God. You are dog! And he said it in such an amazing way that the guy practically fell back on his seat. The Shakti, and the guy just fell back, and the whole audience stood up and clapped and cheered and whistled. It was like Celtic had just scored a goal in the World Cup or something. I mean, it was an amazing reaction. Everyone just clapped and cheered and everything. And I could see, I was looking at Prabhupada, and Prabhupada actually, he was shocked at the reaction. They just all completely backed up Prabhupada. And what happened was that after the program, we took Prabhupada to the back, and all we had was oranges. The feast, we were so poor that the feast was oranges. I mean, you can imagine that for the public. But even then, so we gave Prabhupada we gave him 5 oranges, and then we gave him another 5. I think he ate about 10 oranges. Now what happened was that when Prabhupada was leaving the hall, I can swear on this till the day I die, Prabhupada was intoxicated. It was like he was in complete ecstasy. He was staggering down the hall. Now, I was looking at Prabhupada, I was holding the door, and it was only Prabhupada and me, and his servant was coming behind. And I was just looking at Prabhupada, and Prabhupada had this beam that was like incredible. He was just intoxicated. And you could tell, it was like this. I've never seen Prabhupada like that before. And when Prabhupada got to the door, I was holding the door, but I was one step below him. And he just put both his hands on my head, and he started rubbing my head. And I was just standing there, and there's Prabhupada rubbing my head. And I just kind of like, I couldn't believe it. I said, what is going on? And Prabhupada was rubbing my head in a very, very gentle way. He said, I am very pleased with what you have done. He said, now you've preached this Krishna consciousness. all over Scotland. It was just such a beautiful way. It was like, you know, it's hard to explain it because it was just one of those moments that you'll never... Okay, so what happened was that Prabhupada called me back into the room, and I was kind of fascinated then because now I'm in the room with Prabhupada, and Prabhupada's going to have a shave. So I was drying myself off, and Prabhupada was in the mirror with this, and he'd soaked up, and he had this, Nanda Kumar was standing behind him with a towel and some stuff. And now the only thing you have to check if it's Nanda Kumar, because that I can't focus in on. I don't think, it might have been Shruti Kirti, but I don't think so. You know, it's one of those things, because with Prabhupada I always remember, you know, kind of servants, but they were always Nanda Kumar or Shruti Kirti or something like that. So I'm pretty sure it was Nanda Kumar. But anyway, Prabhupada's trying to use the razor. So I could see Prabhupada was disturbed, and I was fascinated the way Prabhupada was so angelic. He was like going like this. So Prabhupada was looking, so he turned to Nanda Kumar and said, "This is Gillette?" First of all, he was holding the razor in his hand like that, and he said, and then he looked at Nanda Kumar and said, and he was pointing to the dial, because Prabhupada has a razor with a dial on it, and he adjusts it, and he said, "There's no dial? It's not here?" Like that. You know how Prabhupada would question. He said, "Dial?" And then Nanda Kumar said, "No, that's not your regular razor, Prabhupada. It doesn't have a dial." And Prabhupada said, "Is it?" Then Prabhupada said, "It is Gillette?" And then Nanda Kumar said, "No, it's not Gillette." Prabhupada said, "Simply bogus." And the way it was like unbelievable. It was like he'd rejected, you know, like someone who rejects Mayavadi philosophy. Prabhupada just said, "Simply bogus." And he said it in such a wonderful way. And the razor just sort of floated. He didn't throw it, but there was a shelf there, and it just landed on the shelf. But Prabhupada just went, "Simply bogus."
Hare Krishna. Okay. Very nice. We had two different episodes today. Okay. And both are very different. Both have very different moods, you know. Very instructive, both of them. And yes, I wanted to, let's have devotees, the realizations, what did they pick up? Anything which stood up for you, in all of you? And yeah, just a quick one. Let us start with Parthavu. Parthavu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, sir. So we'll start with you then. Hare Bol.
Yes, Prabhu. Let me just... Yes, Prabhu. There were a lot of points that in the first one, like Mahabodhi Das, Prabhu. So he said a point about how Srila Prabhupada, so many devotees have said this time and again. There were a lot of points, especially the one about Srila Prabhupada and the tape recorder, where he said that there is no difference between him and his Vani. And that is what has been emphasized in these classes as well, that, you know, we can always associate with Srila Prabhupada through his books. And yesterday, I remember Avinash Prabhu also said this in a class, that if sometimes there is some situation where you crave association and you don't have it, you can just open your phone or you can just open your books, and there you have it. You're just associating with Srila Prabhupada there. So one point was that. And apart from that, Prabhu, the other point was how so many devotees have spoken this point that Srila Prabhupada can see right through you. Like there is no hiding anything when you're in front of Srila Prabhupada. And that feeling, Prabhu, we've also got when we do right for Vyas Puja offerings. And, you know, when we go in front of the altar, and how we have been trained that, you know, first we request permission from Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada, and then we do our services to Shri Radha Krishna. So in that way, whatever, when we are asking permission, Prabhu, whatever, you know, intentions or other motivations we might have, it feels like that, okay, we are requesting permission from Srila Prabhupada. So it all, you know, feels like that, that all these impurities, you just get a reflection back in a mirror, like how you look in the mirror and you get a reflection back. You get a reflection back that okay, I'm not so I'm so materially polluted and all of this, but just because of Srila Prabhupada's this, that's why we are requesting permission, that we are not qualified, we are not eligible, but somehow or the other, please accept this service so that we can please Shri Radha Krishna. So this point, Prabhu, and there were also so many points. I won't stretch it long, but yes, Prabhu, this is what I think.
Okay, thank you very much. This was 1 or 2 points. That's good enough. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Good to see all of you. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol. Who would like to go next? Please feel free.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for showing us. This is always very nectarian, very good to watch memories of Srila Prabhupada and different devotees, how they describe and what the experience is very thrilling. And very much, it's like we are there. And so, yeah, a couple of points that I realized that stick out for me. That one, the first point, that how Srila Prabhupada was teaching that we are not the doer. And Srila Prabhupada was chastising. So, yeah, Guru, that's the Guru's position. He's always chastising, so we don't have an ego. And that's what I think our mood should be when we are with our seniors, with our mentors. That we don't show that we are the doers, so we are doing everything. And the second point is that how Srila Prabhupada was showing that we should be never alone with women, in even our daughter or sister in a room. And that is mentioned, there is a verse about it. And Srila Prabhupada was, it's not like Prabhuji, he was thinking that he's not understanding the language and he just started to go. But Srila Prabhupada's point was that he wanted to show that what the behavior, ideal behavior should be. And that's why he's Acharya. He's shown by his Acharan. And same like you have also described with the Guru Maharaj also, that how he showed. That's the benchmark actually. And we can understand wherever we can go. So we know that this is the standard. So that we need to follow. So that is really, really good. Yes, Prabhupada. Thank you very much, Prabhupada. This is what I really say.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Yes, that's quite true. Quite true. Because this is what things are, and we have to be very careful, especially with those sannyasis and very senior devotees who associate with women very freely. This is how we'll learn from this. You have to be very careful, So that's correct. Prabhupada with his sister, both were old, Kushima. But that's good. Thank you. And always behind our success, there's always someone's prayer, Always someone's prayer. If once you appreciate that, we are very happy. There's always some of our parents, our seniors, someone's prayer is there. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Yes. Who would like to go next, please?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for showing us nice videos, Prabhuji. This is always, I always enjoy to hearing this all realizations or and the memories of Srila Prabhupada. So there is one point Mahabuddhi Prabhu mentioned that Prabhupada never felt alone because he knows his spiritual master is always with him. So I was thinking about this point that how like Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master was not there present physically, but he's always feeling shelter of him. The same way we are always feeling our shelter of our Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada. And then Srila Prabhupada make us realize that how we feel the shelter of our spiritual master. By following him and by following his instruction, we are always, and every day, day to day, or whatever problems come or anything comes, either material or spiritual, we always, seek, like we always go obeisances to Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada, and we ask, like, this is the problem all. And then many times it comes like suddenly we feel like we come out of the problem already. That's how we realize that they are always with us. So that's one point. I really, it's really like me, Prabhuji. And the other point was that that Mahabodhi Prabhu was, he should make sure that the prasadam should give to all the devotees when they come to take a darshan of Srila Prabhupada. And somehow he forget or something happened, and then when Srila Prabhupada looked at him, prasadam, and he ran to the temple altar, and then he saw the prasad, there's a sweet to offer Radha and Krishna. But then he was rushing to give it to Srila Prabhupada, so Srila Prabhupada can distribute, and he get that from the Radha his plate to the other plate and give it to Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada looked at it, it's like Srila Prabhupada is giving mercy, and then he's distributing, and then it's ready for the distribution. So spiritual master is as good as our Krishna, like so I just felt that how Srila Prabhupada realized that prasadam is offered and not offered, and then how he's give the mercy and blessing to that prasadam so devotees can have. So that's my 2 point, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. It's very important. See, there are a few things I would like to just quickly share, you, in the presence of a pure devotee, you do not offer to Krishna and then give to the devotee to have prasadam. You do not know this, So you can just offer, of course, Radha Krishna garland and all, you can do that, and then otherwise, food, prasadam, yes, you offer and then serve. Otherwise, you can take it themselves, When they see it, that is their blessing, acceptance of blessing, But don't minimize it. Don't make it cheap, You have to be very careful about this point, And yes, filling the shelter, that is a thing. Shelter is the most important thing. This is the point of that's why when they say that when I feel sheltered, that is the meaning of whole parampara and nothing else, And there's a very nice post from Bhagavatam. I think I'll share it with all of you in a day or two about this. How do you associate with pure devotee? What do you mean by association with pure devotee? That's good. And see, there are many remembrances, of Prabhupada, and many of them are being by so many big devotees, big sannyasis and big gurus and all, and they speak so nice.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, you're on mute, I think.
Okay, Hare Krishna. All right. So did I got mute now, or was it muted before, all throughout?
Just a minute ago, Prabhuji. Just
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So all those, I share those realizations, from devotees and all. There are many who give very nice remembrances of Prabhupada, and those big devotees, But I like to share and show only those who have a little bit of confidence, that there is little less hypocrisy, in these things. Excuse me, I don't want to mean anybody or anything. It is but I'm preaching. So I have to be very careful. Otherwise, it's innumerable And when people would give their realizations, I have a choice to make. The choice to make is this, that we will miss those realizations, remembrances of those. And second thing is this, that we may misunderstand to say, oh, they are so big, they're so nice. These people who give their realizations, they don't speak those esoteric languages, you know. Otherwise, if others they speak such pious language, but then actions are not as. So I choose this. And my request to you is that don't jump around looking for things. You'll easily get. That's why we do this. That's why one of the reasons why I show this thing is myself to show you. And we cut, we remove, we chop so many things and show you things, you know. Otherwise, they speak so nicely, the actions you do not know. Actions we know. By the time you realize it, it'll be too late for you. So we'll pick up and we share ourselves, those experiences and realizations. But that's why these are devotees whom we, you know, Tribhunath Prabhu, he passed away now. But his preaching in Africa was absolutely stunning. I'll share those points. You know, I don't think it has come up now. He's preaching in Africa in certain points, but I'll share with you as time will go. So it was very nice. You know. Yeah, I just thought I'll share that point also with you. Please don't take me wrong, but I choose whose realizations I'm going to share because I should be comfortable about it. You know, with knowing what things are. So, as you do not know what things are, you want to share, you want to watch, it's for you where you want to watch. I'm not party to that. I'm giving freedom to everybody, but as far as my control is there, I'm serving, I'll share with those which are good enough. Okay. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Yes, please. Who would like to go next?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So Prabhuji, some points that I'll share some points from the videos. So first one, I think it would be the same as Parth Prabhu also said that Prabhuji says that the Srila Prabhupada was playing his tape, and Prabhupada also said that there is no difference between him talking to us, talking to him, or the tape that is playing. And even at the end of that video, it said that Prabhupada had left us physically, but his instructions were still very much present and available. So, yes, and that was very significant because even today, if we want to hear Prabhupada, then we can very easily just go on YouTube and there are videos available of him. And even his devotees' realizations are available, which you were seeing in this class. So that was a very nice thing that was said in the video, Prabhuji. And another thing that was said that in
So
Prabhupada's
never
body-
forget this. This is a very good point for you and past people and for everybody. Today you are starting. So you see, yes, it's very good. Tomorrow you will have to firmly with faith follow this to save yourself. Okay? Remember this point. This realizations which you have got, it's very nice. And make sure that when it comes to your personal sadhana in the future, you can fall back on this realization. Yeah?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Prabhuji, I was not able to hear you. I'm really sorry.
You're not able to hear. Okay. Okay.
I just had some issues with my headphones, so I was not.
Yeah.
I heard that it is very important and we should remember this. After that,
Yes,
I was
that's
not.
fine. That's fine. Because right now it is at you are the initial stages. Of course, you've got 3-4 years already with us now, but still it is initial, you know. Once you pass about 20 years, that's when you'll be more seasoned, you know. But at that time, this instruction which you accept today as a good instruction, you know, about Prabhupada being present, this you should be able to practically implement in your life. Then you will not be fooled. Okay, remember this point. Please continue. Thank you.
Yes, Prabhuji. And another point that in Prabhupada's morning walks, he would often talk about the state of the society. And one time he said that these people, he saw the homeless people, they were sleeping on newspapers and sleeping on the streets. And he said that, and that is so true that in today's world, everything that every person is doing and this advancement also, it is done to avoid karma. Like one way or the other, new inventions, innovations are made to make our life easier. New medicines are made. Also many things are done in an attempt to cheat karma so that we can cheat something or the other. But as we see in the world that we are not able to cheat anything. A new disease comes up or a new difficulty comes up, and how much ever advancement anyone is trying to bring, you're not able to cheat karma. You have to face it. These are the points that's brought for me. Prabhuji, you're mute again.
I said, no, thank you very much. I wanted to say. And in the Western world, people are living on the streets, So there is also karma. We see in Auckland and New Zealand also people on the streets, You see, we're frozen there. But still, it is karma too, And we should be thanking Krishna that to help us, what we are, not to be proud of things. Okay. Jai, Hare Krishna. Yes, please continue.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for showing such a nice video, such nice realizations by pure devotees. A couple of points that really stuck out for me. Firstly, just in the beginning of the realization, oh, sorry, this always happens. Yes. Like how Prabhuji mentioned that he had 4 criteria for accepting anyone as a guru, and they were so all over the place that you should know the absolute truth. He should know the process of understanding the absolute truth. He should be able to read my mind, and he should be able to predict the future. And when he mentioned these criteria, I was so flabbergasted by it. That what are these criteria? And then still Prabhupada met those criteria, and he mentioned that I haven't even spoken a word, and still he's done everything. And that he was so surprised by such a thing. And I was just thinking that Prabhupada really are so transcendental. It's impossible to understand him and how he will act in any given situation. That he really truly sees through everyone. And he mentioned this one line that you feel naked in front of his vision, that he really sees through you. And the second thing that that really stuck out for me as well was that when he was mentioning something about some important task that needs to be done, and that some guidance needs to be there. And Prabhupada said that Krishna is already helping you. So with that one line, he was able to understand that that Prabhuji himself was not the doer of any situation. That he mentioned that verse, one of the seed verses as well, that if you pray to Krishna every day, then he will give you the intelligence to follow your duties in whatever situation, and he will give you this intelligence. And he asked, then will you pray like this every day? Well, yes, he will pray like this every day. So he's very, very kind in that way, Prabhupada. So I think these 2 points I felt really nice. Hare Krishna.
Very nice. Very nice. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Yes, please. Yes, Hari Bol Mazar.
So, Prabhuji, there were a lot of points that stuck. However, I summed up it into 2 or 3 most important hitting points that I picked up from the realizations of the devotees. One was, of course, as other devotees also mentioned, and the Prabhuji, the first speaker, was saying that we think that it was the activities of Prabhupada was in the past. However, it still continues. Prabhupada pastime is still continuing. However, it is our, it is the person's qualification that you pick up Prabhupada's instruction and his words and perform it seriously, with seriousness and with a good intention, then it will still continues. He was giving that realization that it was not that Prabhupada has done and have written books and he is now gone. He still continues and he's still in the present. So it is the duty of the person to pick up and perform it seriously. So it was the first point that struck me. Again, the other point which actually struck me, however, it is still a point which I like to meditate when Prabhuji, the other Prabhuji was saying that when Prabhupada leave the stage, he was so ecstatic and he just place his hand over the devotee, Dhruvan Das Prabhuji, and he was saying, "I'm very pleased with your service, and now you start preaching." And he was saying that it is unfathomable for a person when the spiritual master does the gesture so lovingly, and it is like you get stunned by that gesture of your spiritual master doing that. And he was not able to comprehend that kind of emotion and that kind of compassion showed by the devotional by the spiritual master. And that was actually something that I would like to meditate, and that I really liked in that conversation, in that realization that it becomes very, what kind of emotion is that? I mean, when you do certain things and you are into the process, but sometimes it's like a magic that happens with you, is it not? So yeah, so that was again something that struck me.
Okay, Jai, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Very nice. Yes, please, Aniyor. Krishna says, give me more, give me more.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you, Amrish Prabhu, for showing us this very nice realization by Srila Prabhupada's disciples. So there are many points, as everyone actually has shared most of them. And yeah, it's very fortunate, these disciples have direct, personal association and to hear from Srila Prabhupada. And actually, it's really good that we're still able to hear those, from their direct disciples. So how Srila Prabhupada was, otherwise we would never know. So yes, thank you very much, Prabhuji, for showing us. There are many points, but I think the one actually I should mention that made me think is one with I think it was Sri Bhuvan who shared this realization about bird droppings, where Srila Prabhupada actually pointed, actually asked his disciple, what is that, and it's a bird droppings maybe on the floor, and they say, yes, bird. So what is that? What did it mean? He asked the question, the Srila Prabhupada, and I think they were a bit surprised, how to respond. And Prabhupada said, even, that means that bird is sitting, sleeping on the same branch every night. And even that bird can get attached to that branch. And I was thinking, that was the way Srila Prabhupada, actually his thinking, is Vaishnavas, because I was reading and where Srila Prabhupada's lecture only, I think it was, that actually Vaishnava is always merciful, is always thinking about other living entities, how they can be actually released from the clutches of this Maya, and even Srila Prabhupada thought about bird, what to talk about, we only talk about devotees, or even sometimes we don't even care about people who do not know. But here, that's why maybe Srila Prabhupada, is Mahabhagavad, it's always thinking. Even Srila Prabhupada says that the Vaishnavas, they are always, very merciful to everyone and always praying. They want to suffer for other people's, And Srila Prabhupada always quote this even in his lecture regarding Lord Jesus Christ. He suffered for the whole humanity, and that's how the Vaishnavas are. So, and we should actually, what I realize is that, yeah, we should never under the illusion that we should not think that we are studying all this, we are doing all this chanting, that we will never become attached to these material things. If a bird can get attached, certainly we can get attached to the things even, anytime. So, yeah, I think we should learn from the Srila Prabhupada instruction that we have to be very, very careful. We can even get attached to small things. And even I remember the Bharat Maharaj, he was such a great devotee. He got attached to that small deer. So such a great devotees can get attached. So we are very vulnerable. So, yeah. And second point, I was thinking at the same thing, I think my wife shared regarding Prasadam. So she shared that part. Yeah, that was very nice. And Amrish Prabhu also told us how that actually we should not actually make it cheap. That they can actually just look at it and bless it, gives the blessings. But the second part where Srila Prabhupada was very personal about that gentleman who already left. And when Mahabuddhi Prabhu came, Srila Prabhupada said, oh, that person, the person who just left, you should find him. He should get the prasad. And then actually when he ran out, after Srila Prabhupada instructed him, he was looking for him and he wasn't outside the door. And so he actually ran to the gate and he was there, with his chadar on his head. And he gave actually the prasad and told him that Srila Prabhupada wanted to have this prasad. And he looked at him and said, oh, your spiritual master is very kind. So I was thinking actually, when Srila Prabhupada, it means prasad distribution, like, we also, Amrish Prabhu engages in distributing prasad, but that Srila Prabhupada has that burning, desire to that everyone should get the mercy, And he was very particular. Even he thought about that person is already left. So actually, we should carry the same mood. And we know actually the prasad means we all love prasad, but prasad can actually, it can work the magic. How it can actually change one's consciousness. So I think I like that actually. Srila Prabhupada, he was very, very concerned that everybody must get prasad. As long as we have, we must distribute it. So. At that point, Prabhuji, yeah. So there are many other points, but even the actually one the Sanjay Prabhu said, regarding the sannyasi, in presence of the woman, he should not be alone. So yeah, that was very important instruction, and Srila Prabhupada, I think he mentioned his other lectures as well, but Srila Prabhupada here, he actually lived the example, that's what he's called as a person Bhagavatam, So whatever is actually mentioned in the scripture, he is, living as it is. So I think, yeah, that is maybe a yardstick, for us to actually see, how things are happening around, and we should understand, who's actually following the actual instructions. So yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Abu, Hare Krishna, thank you. The first point, which you're mentioning about attachment, bird. All these are very nice. Thank you very much for your points there. You see, we even could be attached to remaining in mode of goodness. Not today, to come in mode of goodness is very high thing. We should be reaching mode of goodness. But we have to be careful once we reach that stage also. We'll be attached to mode of goodness too. We will be attached to knowledge as well. We think knowledge is everything. No. Knowledge is not everything. Practical implementation of knowledge is everything. Otherwise, knowledge is everything, then everybody will become knowledgeable. Every person with knowledge is transcendental. Knowledge is very important, don't get me wrong, but practically we have to implement it in our life. Then we will be not victimized by attachment. Otherwise, knowledge by itself will be victimized, guaranteed. You'll be attached to knowledge too. So this point I wanted to share for long time, Today it came out with a nice relevance, about attachment with the bird. and even for devotees too. So many times devotees also, if we're studying, we become very attached to our studies, and we become, that is very good, it should be. But at the same time, the moment it brings us to say, I know, we're finished there. Krishna cannot be known by knowledge too. But that does not mean we should not be knowledgeable. He says, I give the knowledge by which they come to me. But at the same time, the implementation of knowledge, the wisdom is very important. Otherwise, knowledge by itself is got no meaning. That is the reason why all the leaders, in fact, every devotee, we should spend some time every day in systematic study of our scriptures. Because all those who are preaching, we understand we are very busy, and we are working, we do things, and we study, we preach, and we do. That is okay, that we should do. But the underlying factor should be every day. You must start from that first chapter, first introduction of Bhagavatam, continuing Bhagavatam, continuing Bhagavad Gita, every day systematic study, apart from our preaching of other things. These are very, very important points. But somehow we must do this. And this will be very tough. These are very, very tough things. And then we have to spend time, invest time in thinking over what we've studied before what we preach. This is about our personal sadhana. And thinking that what has been spoken there, oh, this has been spoken. Am I according to that speaking? Yes or no? So this vicharana para, this thinking is very important, implementation of this. So otherwise, will we attach to even this knowledge? We'll be very, very careful, please. It is not easy. I mean, we have got mix of devotees here, beginners also, leaders also, intermediate also. So knowledge is needed, systematic knowledge. But implementation of it is very critical at every stage. Thank you. This gave me a good cue to share this point. I wanted to share it for so long time, for many, many months now. But I was not getting the opportunity. Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Please, who would like to go next? Please, please.
Hare Krishna. Guru.
Yes, Prabhuji, Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu, for sharing the videos. I also had the same 2 points that Shita Prabhu just shared. The first point was that Prabhupada, when he asked Mahabuddhi Prabhu to give the prasadam to the devotee, and he said that he must have that prasadam. And like Prabhupada personally took care of everyone. He was a pure devotee, and he is so merciful that he personally take care that this devotee should get prasadam. And so that was my first point. And the second was when that bird dropping incident, where he asked Mahabuddhi Prabhu that even that bird is attached to its apartment. He says to Mahabuddhi Prabhu. So that point I like, that not just humans but also the birds are even attached to their apartment. So Prabhupada could give us so easy example, and so he could give examples in real life that we can relate to. So yes, Prabhu,
Yes, exactly. That's called wisdom. That's called wisdom. We should be learning from that point. Very correct.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Very nice.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, Shubhji, Hari Bol. Please, please.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for sharing us the video. So I may repeat some points, but the first thing I liked is when devotee said that Prabhupada was non-different from what he said. His actions were, he was like a walking Bhagavatam. And that's how we know that he's a spiritual master, because what he said and what was his action was one and the same. And second thing I took was the surrender towards your spiritual master is foremost. And you can see while devotees were giving their realization how surrendered they were towards Prabhupada and how it made them happy from time to time. So I think more than anything, we should know that what will make our spiritual master happy. That's what I took from this video.
Very nice. Very nice. Thank you, Prabhuji. And remember, because you all are clever people, you young people are very clever. You must also understand one thing. Spiritual master should be qualified like Prabhupada. Not that you should not be closing your eyes in following any rascal. That is not the business. That is not the business. Okay. Very nice. Who would like to go next? Please, please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mother Hari Bol.
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you for sharing the videos. There were so many points which I like the most. Are the 2 points which I want to share. Like Prabhupada mentioned regarding the advancements of country, and he was mentioning that the beggar is still there because karma is still alive. So if you make an advancements in the country, but karma is still there. So he was always remembering this, that karma is still there. And when then the devotee asked him regarding but what about the advancement, how to make advancement? So he was mentioning that one leg at one time, one leg should be fixed firmly, and then the second leg should and there was another point was regarding why the pure devotee gets sick. So Krishna bites to devotee, and therefore it's a love bite. It's regarding a love bite. So that I remember that whenever now I'll fall sick, I'll remember this point. So thank you, Prabhuji. These video was so amazing. Thank you for sharing. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Remember one thing. Unless our karmas are purified, we are going to have karmic reaction of past. Chanting helps us to purify the karma. One name of Krishna can purify unlimited lifetimes of Krishna, of our sins. But that we should have the faith in doing so. You see. So, and that's once you achieve that, then what you suffer is love bite. Not that everybody can start having love bites. That's not the case. Krishna is not that cheap, Very nice. Hare Krishna. Please excuse me, You have to be careful, Okay, who would like to go next? Haribol.
Hare Krishna. There was one very nice realization given by Mahabhuti Prabhu, where he said that Srila Prabhupada's pastimes are still continuing. So even after leaving this world, Srila Prabhupada's pastimes are still continuing. And he was also in the same realization. He said that time is what's separating the movement from expanding, or from Krishna consciousness to expand all over the world. but it's up to us to contribute. We want to contribute in that, in what's predestined to happen. So it was a really powerful point, and some food for thought for me as well, because actually, even if we're reading Srila Prabhupada's books, or even if we're engaging in Krishna consciousness, that's still all actually Srila Prabhupada's mercy, and actually Srila Prabhupada's pastimes as well, because if we're following sincerely and from the right source, then actually Srila Prabhupada's talking directly to us. And I think there was this incident as well when Srila Prabhupada was there, that he told some person that all of these temples have already been built. Thousands of devotees, hundreds of temples have been built, and that person says, I can't see it. Like, where is it? Prabhupada said the only thing that's separating, this is time. It's already going to happen. So, we've talked about this before, that whatever will happen is going to happen. And this is the golden years of Krishna consciousness. So, it's up to us to contribute and to be a part of this, which again was very, very interesting. Very interesting point given by Prabhu. So, Hare Krishna.
Very well. Yes, that's right. Quite true. Even I think, even I would like to share this, that before departing, Srila Gurudev has said the same thing. That Maharaj, we are ready to leave. But all the best. You told you everything. Just follow whatever I've said to you. That's it. Very practical. You were just there, And Maharaj said, we'll meet again. What separates is time. And I was thinking, Maharaj, wait for long for me to separate. What separates us is only time. So all of us, all of you too, are with it the same way. You all are those who follow sincerely. What separates us is time. The same, all jivas will be in the spiritual world dancing with Krishna, Yes. Hare Krishna. Yes, yes. Would like to go next. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you so much for showing us. It's always very nice to see Srila Prabhupada's memories, and devotees share so much that it's always new for us. The few points which I like from the memories is that how Srila Prabhupada was very aware that all the devotees has to be served food, and Srila Prabhupada by himself, he used to feed hippies as well. We have heard, we have seen in other previous, Srila Prabhupada's memories, and how Srila Prabhupada is there is no change of, there is no intimation. It's just as it is, what is written in the book and how it has to be understood by Srila Prabhupada and how it is getting implemented. And we are still having Srila Prabhupada's pastimes. It's just because Srila Prabhupada was very strict, to follow everything. Although we unintentionally mix up things and do our own way, but Srila Prabhupada never accepted that, and that's why I think the standard is still. Devotees know that this is the standard, and they try to achieve that. One more thing, that how Srila Prabhupada could see, through Srila Prabhupada had that we can say that experience that Srila Prabhupada used to know by seeing that who is doing what from inside, out. Are they, if they are the same, they are following the instructions, and then how surrendered they are. So it is all very good to know, Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Okay. We'll have to go next. Have you completed?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you, Abhish Prabhu. Thank you, Mataji, and thank you, Krishna Prabhu. My relation after listening to those devotees and I have been listening this kind of Ambisho. This, I think when internet was not there, Ambisho was sharing this wonderful pastimes, wonderful realizations of those devotees. And the way Amrish this differentiate, that is very unique of Amrish. He knows what to show, where to show, what not to show. So we are very fortunate. The other thing is that whenever we listen to or watch pastime of a pure devotee, it is always perfect. We understand, we don't understand. We understand when we are ready, but their pastimes, their activities are all perfect. And that's what we learn from them. So, and now we are trying to preach, now we are trying to take this knowledge to somebody else as to purify ourselves. And we try to repeat what Prabhupada had said. It is our bhakti that what is the purity in our knowledge when we are sharing, what is the skill set we have got, that how we are actually sharing that knowledge, that determines our success in bhakti, and that actually our purification. So I was trying to understand that how actually Prabhupada were talking to devotees, how Prabhupada were actually giving this knowledge to devotees. And the thing which I picked up was his listening skill. When that some rascal was talking about, I am God, everybody is God, and all, and Prabhupada would listen, let him speak. You all heard that. He said, you're not God, you're dog. That's only a pure devotee can say in front of everybody. So if you are attached to result, that if I am going to upset someone, I cannot say rascal to someone, I cannot say stupid to someone, then we are attached to our own ego, as somebody was just highlighted. That's our impurity. So that's very important. And I don't know, Prabhupada has taken us out of that gutter. And it is up to us how far we want to go. We have got that knowledge, we have got that book, we have got those information, we have got those live examples, we have got everything. But how we implement it, it is entirely up to us. So that's what I was thinking when I was watching with my distracted mind about Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Yes, thank you very much, Avinash. You've got most experience, in all this and dealing with us also. So just this point about, I would like to just second time put this point, across, which Avinash have also mentioned now, is about how I filter the information. Actually, it is very offensive. And I can tell you, many people, many devotees would be so upset with me not to show off their different gurus' realizations, and remembrances. What happens is that I've heard them personally before. So when things, over a period of time, when things move, we experience what has happened. What before knowing, we say it's very nice, man. So in such esoteric language has been used and brilliant realizations, and it is superb. But now that we know, I'm prepared to take that little bit of offense, and make sure that what we get is through sincerity. Like for example, even some devotees have left ISKCON. They have joined Gaudiya Math too. Mahabodhi Prabhu, he's one of sannyasis there. But that's all right. He spoke very nicely. He's not demeaning anybody. There you see. He's on his own also. He said Prabhupada disciple, but following. That's all right. But the knowledge is very nice on this. There's no hypocrisy there, So I choose, I not choose, I remove, I add few things. So I'm taking that thing. If I was not preaching, there's no problem. I can watch whatever, I got all information with me. But this is a tough thing which Maharaj has instructed me to do, And there are so many questions which remain unanswered. But at the same time, and many times, many devotees tell me, why don't you do this with your team? Why don't you show this with your team? Why are you not doing this with your team? So many times they have told me. And I'll listen to them quietly, but not do their thing. And they ultimately conclude that this Ambarish is very hypocritic. He wants to become a guru. He wants to keep all these people away. And this is the reason why he doesn't listen to us. I said, no problem. 20 years have passed. I tell myself, if Krishna and Prabhupada wanted to stop this, we would have stopped it immediately 20 years ago. It's not happening, it's good. Those people who think like this, they will stop their preaching. Their preachings have finished. They've gone, they've done, whatever they're doing, their things. Some of them, they've come back and said, he was absolutely right. But I've not gone and told them anything. But we have to be very careful, especially when we have got multi-dimensional devotees, in this, who is touching what, who will be impressed upon what, inspired by what things, and it can be misunderstood. So it's very difficult. But at the same time, all glories to all the devotees who have made these videos, and so we already have certain other realizations I wanted to share, with devotees, with the live footage of Prabhupada. That's another very big nectar. So there's unlimited footage. It is a question of having a bit of time to do a bit of research, editing, and then doing the work, So earlier I used to do with there was no Google then, So in my television, we used to do DVD. They used to put DVD and show everybody. Lost control with it, no? Now everything is open, everybody can see everywhere. So that's fine, what to do. Hare Krishna. All right. Wonderful. I think everybody has shared the realization. Anyone wants to share? I'm sorry. Did I miss anyone? Okay, I think I will wait for 10 more seconds for anyone who wanted to share. Because some of you came a bit late, so I do not know. And I don't want to put you on spot with your. Very nice. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Krishnadas, can you stop this live recording, please? Can you do that?